The rain in the metropolis tasted like static, not unpleasant, just electric. I tilted my head back, letting the droplets kiss my skin, each one a tiny jolt that vibrated down my spine. It was the only thing that cut through the city's relentless hum. Tonight, even the neon seemed to pulse with a feverish intensity, blurring the lines between reality and digital hallucination. I wasn't lost, not exactly. I was precisely where I intended to be, at the edge of my own comfort zone. The club, Synapse, throbbed behind a nondescript door, tucked away in an alley I usually avoided. It was whispered about in certain circles, a place where pleasure was currency, and boundaries were negotiable. The doorman, a towering figure, sculpted from chrome and muscle, scanned my ID with eyes that didn't seem to see me. He simply nodded, and the door hissed open, releasing a wave of sound and heat that washed over me. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of synthetic pheromones and something else. Ozone, perhaps. The club was a labyrinth of dimly lit alcoves and pulsating dance floors. Bodies moved as one, a sea of shimmering fabric and gleaming skin. It was overwhelming, yet strangely exhilarating. I took a slow breath, grounding myself, and moved deeper into the current. I found a secluded corner overlooking the main floor, ordered a drink that tasted like liquid starlight, and watched. There was a performance unfolding below, dancers intertwined with holographic projections, their movements fluid and hypnotic. It was beautiful, disturbing, and utterly captivating. And then I saw him. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't even moving. Really, he was simply there, leaning against a pillar, a silent observer in the chaos. He was tall, impossibly so, with a face that seemed carved from shadows. His hair was the color of midnight, pulled back from his face to reveal sharp cheekbones and a jawline that could cut glass. But it was his eyes that held me captive. They were silver, like polished metal, and seemed to absorb all the light around them. They were fixed on me, not in a predatory way, not in a way that made me feel objectified, but with an intensity that felt recognized, as if he'd been waiting for me. The crowd shifted, and for a moment he was gone. My heart did a strange little flutter. I told myself it was the drink, the atmosphere, the sheer sensory overload of the place, but deep down I knew it was something more. He reappeared a few minutes later, closer this time. He moved with a grace that defied his size, weaving through the dancers as if they weren't even there. He stopped a few feet away from me, his silver eyes never leaving mine. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The air between us crackled with an unspoken energy, a silent invitation that both thrilled and terrified me. I found my voice, though it sounded breathier than usual. "You're watching me." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Am I? Or are you watching me?" His voice was low and resonant, like the hum of a powerful engine. It vibrated through me, settling deep in my bones. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to sound more confident than I felt. He tilted his head, his silver eyes studying me with an unsettling intensity. "That," he said, his voice a low murmur, "depends on what you want." He stepped closer, closing the distance between us until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He smelled of something exotic, something both earthy and metallic. It was intoxicating. "I don't even know you," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the music. "You will," he said, his eyes burning into mine. "If you let me." He reached out, his fingers brushing against my cheek. The contact was electric, sending a shiver down my spine. It wasn't a gentle touch, not exactly. Methylen de gentle touch, not exactly. There was a possessiveness in it, a subtle claim that both unnerved and aroused me. "Who are you?" I asked again, my heart pounding in my chest. He didn't answer. Instead, he took my hand, his fingers interlacing with mine. His grip was firm, confident, but not forceful. It was an invitation, a promise of something more. "Come with me," he said, his voice a low command that resonated deep within me. I hesitated, torn between fear and an overwhelming desire to surrender to the unknown. He represented everything I usually avoided: the unpredictable, the forbidden, the deliciously tempting. But in that moment, surrounded by the pulsating energy of the club and the magnetic pull of his gaze, I couldn't resist. I nodded, a silent agreement that sealed my fate. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips that sent another shiver down my spine. He led me through the crowd, his hand a firm anchor in the swirling chaos. The music seemed to fade away, the faces blurred into a meaningless mass. All I could see was him. All I could feel was the heat of his touch. He led me to a private elevator, tucked away in a corner of the club. The doors hissed open, revealing a sleek, minimalist interior bathed in soft violet light. He ushered me inside, and the doors closed behind us, sealing us off from the rest of the world. The elevator began to ascend, smoothly and silently. I watched the numbers light up, each one taking us further away from the familiar and closer to the unknown. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He turned to me, his silver eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Somewhere," he said, his voice a low murmur, "where we can be alone." He stepped closer, his body pressing against mine. The air crackled with anticipation, the tension between us thick and palpable. I could feel his breath on my neck, his heart beating in time with mine. He leaned down, his lips brushing against my ear. "Are you scared?" he whispered. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the sensations that coursed through me. "Yes," I admitted, my voice trembling. "But I don't want to stop," he chuckled, a low, throaty sound that sent another shiver down my spine. "Good," he said, "because I have no intention of stopping." He tilted my head back, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw. His touch was both gentle and possessive, a subtle assertion of control that ignited a fire within me. "Open your eyes," he murmured, his voice husky with desire. I obeyed, my gaze locking with his. His silver eyes were dark with passion, reflecting the same hunger that burned within me. He lowered his head, his lips hovering just above mine. I could feel his breath on my skin, the heat of his body enveloping me. The anticipation was almost unbearable. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his voice a low rumble against my lips. I hesitated for a moment, the question hanging in the air between us. Trust was a dangerous thing, especially with someone like him. But in that moment, surrounded by the intoxicating energy of the elevator and the magnetic pull of his gaze, I knew I had no choice. "Yes," I whispered, surrendering to the inevitable. "I trust you." He smiled, a slow, possessive curve of his lips that sent a wave of heat through me. "Then let me show you," he said, his voice a low promise, "what you've been missing." And then he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle kiss. Not at first. It was a raw, demanding, claiming that stole my breath away. His lips were firm and insistent, his tongue a darting flame that ignited every nerve ending in my body. I moaned softly, surrendering to the pleasure that coursed through me. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer, deepening the kiss. He responded with a growl, his grip tightening on my waist. He lifted me up, my legs wrapping around his torso. He carried me against the wall, his kiss becoming more urgent, more demanding. The elevator jolted to a stop, the doors hissing open to reveal a penthouse suite, bathed in soft, ambient light. But I barely noticed. All I could see was him. All I could feel was the heat of his kiss. He carried me into the suite, his lips never leaving mine. He kicked the door shut behind us, sealing us off from the world. We were alone, finally, and there was no turning back. He laid me down on a plush velvet chaise lounge, his body hovering over mine. His silver eyes burned into mine, his face a mask of desire. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice husky with passion. I looked up at him, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew this was a point of no return, a step into the unknown that would change me forever. But I wasn't afraid. I was excited. I was ready. "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling with anticipation. "I'm ready." He smiled, a slow, possessive curve of his lips that sent a shiver of anticipation down my spine. And then he began to show me what I'd been missing. The night dissolved into a blur of sensation, a tapestry woven from stolen glances, whispered promises, and the intoxicating taste of forbidden pleasure. He didn't just touch me. He awakened something dormant within me, a hunger I hadn't known existed. With each caress, each lingering kiss, he stripped away my inhibitions, leaving me vulnerable and exquisitely alive,